if you're a documentary editor who's looking to up their game a little bit and create better documentaries, or if you're looking to get into it as well, also if you don't really know much about documentary editing, this episode's going to be good for you. So that basically covers all grounds, I think, because we're going to be talking about the 4 things that make a good documentary. They're not probably the things that you're going to be thinking about, because you may be thinking that it's probably quality of the footage. It's not. We're going to be talking about the 4 top things that make a good documentary and how you, as an editor, can influence them. Now, if you are joining us, we are live on YouTube. Again, I'm trying this out. Let me know if the quality is okay in the comments. Because I'm going to try this, see how it works. And for that reason, you have to forgive me any editing blunders. I don't have the option to cut things out, so stick with me. Hello, by the way, if you're new around here, welcome. This is the video editing podcast from Unsplice. My name is Shiny. I'm the founder of Unsplice and your host. And if you are a video editor who is trying to escape your mundane job and move into video editing, Unsplice can help train you so that you can take back control of your time and say yes to work that you enjoy wherever you want to do it. So while other places may teach you about perhaps the software or teach you how to create one timeline, one edit, Unsplice has a strong focus on making you a career editor. So let's talk about the 4 things that make a good documentary. I've put these in order of importance, the way I see it, because I am by trade a documentary editor. Documentaries and commercials have done for 15 years, and so I've cut lots of different types. I've cut stuff for broadcast, for BBC, for Vice, and also branded content as well, which is something unto itself. And branded content, if you are unaware, is essentially a kind of a cross between a documentary and a commercial. You have a 5-minute film essentially told in a documentary format, and then at the end you'll have a brand logo because it's sponsored by a brand. As an example, you may have Nike does a story of an amputee that gets up at 4 a.m. every morning so that they can jog in their Nike trainers, and so that they have enough time to get to the homeless shelter for 6 a.m. and serve their community. That is probably a perfect script for branded content. And then at the end you'll have Nike. And it is essentially, rather than telling a story about a product, it shares the company's values. That's the main communication. It's not selling a product, it's selling a company's values. That's branded content essentially. So this also applies to branded content as well as documentaries. So top of the list, in my humble and most other good editors' opinions, is a strong character. You really don't have a great deal of influence in this as an editor. By the time the footage comes to you, the characters have already been decided. But a strong character nonetheless really is going to make a documentary more or less watchable. So whilst you are not able to change the character itself as an editor, what you can do is pull out the qualities of the footage of that character and communicate that character in a way that the audience is going to like, bond, and connect with. There's the triumvirate of they need to know, like, and trust the character, essentially. So that is the number one thing that's going to make your documentary great is having a strong character. Number two is completely in your hands, and that is an intriguing story arc. So every film, and by the way, I have to just say that not every documentary is going to be about a character. It could be about a place. It could be about a venue. It could be about a club, a cult. There's lots of documentaries about different cults. That's also something. So it would be shown from the perspective of the cult, or the venue and stuff. So with that in mind, intriguing story arc. Every single documentary that is worth watching has a story of transformation or overcoming adversity. And that's true for every story, really. If you think about it from this perspective, then all of a sudden, all of the decisions become a lot easier. If you're trying to tell a story and you just have, I don't know, let's say a client has come to you and they've asked you, they've got some loads of footage of their gym. Let's pick something really boring. It's a gym, and they're like, we've got loads of footage of, classes going on and da. Well, we're not trying to make an infomercial here. If they're asking for a documentary, we need to create some kind of story of transformation or overcoming adversity. So in that situation, you probably want to find someone, perhaps someone who is unlikely, the least fittest perhaps, and have them go through a transformation, an unlikely transformation, and come out the other end. And that is going to be, that's a story. That's a documentary story right there. Because without that, it's just a bunch of footage of a gym, and it's an infomercial essentially. You're then selling a product and not a transformation. So that is how you can take content like that and then have it become branded content. So number two is an intriguing story arc. So think about a transformation or overcoming adversity. That pretty much covers all documentaries and all great stories. Number three on this list, I have four. So this is the third most important. Apart from the character and the story, is empathy. And that is empathy for the subject matter. And that could be a character. That could be, it depends. If the story is about a character, then the viewer, the audience, needs to feel empathy for the subject, for that character. If it's about, I cut recently, I say recently, it was about a year ago. It was a documentary about a cult. So that's why that's kind of fresh on my mind, that subject matter. And we decided to change the perspective from that of a person, because we didn't have enough footage to tell a story about one person. We told the story about all of the people that joined the cult from the perspective of the cult. So you can almost think about it like, with reality TV shows, as a trashy example, Love Island, or, there are so many different versions of the same concept, right? And it'll be, Big Brother is another one that's international. You have a venue, the Big Brother house, and everything is told from the perspective of the Big Brother house. Today on day 12 in the Big Brother house, this happened and this happened and this happened, and then you on. And in that story, you have the characters who are doing their thing, and they have their own story thing. Little things happen, and someone has a lover's tiff, someone is pissed because they've run out of pasta, and it was someone else's job to order the pasta, whatever. And So you can tell the story from the perspective of a venue as well. But of course, within that, you will have characters that you want to create empathy with. Now, there are a few ways that you can create empathy, and one of the main ways is to show flaws. Nobody likes a completely flawless person. Superman would not be nearly as entertaining if he was truly invincible. He is susceptible to kryptonite and love, and so those are his weaknesses. And without those, it wouldn't be an interesting watch. We are, as humans, incredibly flawed. I'm incredibly guilty of this, but I have a loving and forgiving wife, thankfully. But empathy is something that we are looking for when we view these characters and we view these stories. So how can you create that? We show flaws. We show flaws in the things they do, but not so much that they become detestable. We still want them to be liked, but we need to have some flaws there. Otherwise, they will feel infallible. Another way to add some empathy is to add moments of reflection and also personality traits of the character. So we do tend to do a lot of deep thinking, even when we perhaps aren't supposed to. But even in the shower, it's a time for us to ponder, and we do our best thinking then. And so it is a great way to build empathy, to be able to read into the emotions of the character that we have on screen, and create these moments of pause and reflection. And once we have those, we're going to see the human side of the character that we have on screen. And of course, personality traits are another way to build rapport and trust and make our characters likable. These are the same tools that people use to create anti-heroes. By their very nature, within scripted, an anti-hero should not be liked. Take Deadpool as an example. He, by his very nature, is an asshole, and he shouldn't be likable. But he is, because he's relatable, and he has flaws that we all share, and so we're able to build a bond with this person that we technically shouldn't. So that is number 3 in what makes a good documentary. And so number 4 is not unimportant by any stretch or any means, but I just decided to go with 4 today because I wanted to keep the list short, and because these really are the core. If you got these, you're good. Doesn't matter what the footage looks like. If you've got all of these things, then your documentary is going to be entertaining. Number 4 is an interesting story. Now, this is something that you may not have full control over, because in the pre-production stage, the documentary makers will have done a lot of research to find a story worth telling, characters that are interesting to watch, and hopefully an interesting story. The reason they've gone to film this character, this person, or this scene is because there is an interesting story to tell. Now, whether that is the story of the amputee who was training for their country's first ever gold in the Olympics, that is an interesting story. But that is a very base level, 1 sentence top line story. Extrapolating that into a documentary obviously takes something else. But an interesting story nonetheless is incredibly important. So when the filmmakers come and they've gone out and they've shot this story of the amputee going through training and then going to the Olympics to compete, whether they get gold or not is irrelevant if you tell the story well. But that's the story. So they've come back, they've given you all this footage. Here you go. You now have to curate all of the information from all of those days of shooting and be able to tell the most interesting story using that footage. All they've shot really is this top line summary that we've just said. Amputee competing for a gold medal in the country's Olympics. So without an experienced documentarian will already know, okay, I need this, I need this, I need this. And especially if their specialism is Olympic athletes training for their country, that is a viable niche for a documentarian or a filmmaker. So they may have done this loads of times before, and they bring you all the perfect footage. You're like, oh God, this is easy. Chances are that's not the case. So it's up to you as the editor to pull the best bits from each scene, build the scenes in the most compelling order. More importantly, leave out the scenes and the information that really isn't pushing the story forward, and have it culminate in a very satisfying resolution. And that is how a good documentary is made. That probably should have been higher up on the list, to be honest. But I think because it's such an integral part of your job as an editor, crafting this interesting story, I think everything else that comes before has a lot more importance on the people before you in pre-production. But telling an interesting story, goddamn, that's you. And if you have a fantastic edit producer, story producer, or director producer working with you, then they can definitely help you to build out that story. Saying that, on Friday the 27th of January, which as from this live is in 2 days' time, within Unsplice Pro, there is a live workshop on how to tell a good story within documentaries. So this is going to be a basic understanding of storytelling for documentaries, also incredibly useful for branded content. And if you are unlucky enough to miss the live workshop, of course the recording is available within Unsplice Pro, but with the live you get to ask questions on the fly. And if you do happen to miss that, then in 1 month, on the 24th of February, there is going to be a workshop on how to tell a good story without a narrative, without dialogue. So if you work heavily within commercials, then that's going to be really, really useful for you, because it'll help you understand how, when you've got like loads of shots of let's say a Coke bottle, how can you actually just make the Coke bottle, 10, 30-second commercial? How can you make that interesting? Because all the shots are just of a Coke bottle that doesn't do anything or say anything. So that is what is going to be happening live in February. Head to unsplice.com/pro to check that out. Sign up. You get access to all of the past workshops, including how to edit faster and how to edit music like a pro, how to your creative workflow, including how to build and edit in the most optimum order to make your life easier as an editor, and also all the technical stuff. If you're unclear and you're just starting your journey as a video editor, you're unclear on the technical side, there's a course within Unsplice Pro called Technical Workflow, which will cover all the important stuff in an hour and a half. So that's the wonderful thing about all of this training is available in an hour and a half, one evening. You can just do it, learn it, and then implement it in your work. And if you ever need to refresh your memory about what it is, I was like, oh, I remember that, but I don't remember that from that course. You can go back and it won't take you long to just soak it up and go through it again. If you have any questions about anything that we've spoken about on today's episode, you can head to unsplice.com/pro, sign up for Unsplice Pro. I am in there. Every week there's a live session where you can ask any questions you like, but also we have a subject. So earlier today, there was one about exactly this. So how to, what are 4 things that make a good documentary? What's the good things that make a documentary? Myself and Lulu, shout out to Lulu, we had a good conversation about that, about the documentary field, how big it is, and it's expanding and it's growing. And we also spoke about, how documentary films are not just National Geographic films, but they cover all sorts. Even do you remember Tiger King? That's pretty much a documentary, and there's just blowing up documentaries everywhere. So you can do that. Alternatively, I am sometimes in the comments in YouTube. Pop a question in YouTube. And if not, then reach out to me. You can, if you like, if you're interested in one-on-one, so you and I working together to help you achieve your video editing goals, help you get your first paid job as an editor, and help you progress onto the editing, the kind of jobs that you want to work on. Perhaps it's documentaries. Then we can help you work towards working for Vice or BBC or maybe National Geographic or maybe Netflix, and we can help you get there. You can reach out, contact@unsplice.com. That's me. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.